David, a hard-working taxi driver, was navigating through his days burdened by the weight of financial struggles. One late night, what seemed like just another ordinary shift, took an unexpected turn when he encountered a young woman holding her small child, her face streaked with tears. Moved by compassion, David decided to help her, without accepting any payment. Little did he know, that small act of kindness would set off a chain of events that would change his life forever. A mysterious phone call in the middle of the night pulled him into a story filled with surprises. Behind the woman's gratitude lay a deeper tale, and an unexpected gift that he could never have imagined. Sometimes, a simple act of kindness has the power to illuminate an entire life. Hi everyone, welcome to Life's Touching Stories. Today we will listen to a deeply heartfelt and meaningful story. David, a hard-working driver, sat quietly in the driver's seat of his old taxi, his tired eyes following the sparse crowd moving through the quiet city streets late at night. The laughter and chatter of the day had faded, replaced by the stillness of the city. It had been a long day, and the weight of financial struggles pressed heavily on his shoulders. David worked tirelessly, driving from dawn until late at night to support his family. His wife had recently lost her job, and their young daughter needed an expensive surgery. Piles of unpaid bills on their kitchen table haunted him every time he thought about them. That night, just as he was about to head home, he noticed a small figure standing on the roadside under a dim yellow streetlight. It was a young woman with disheveled hair, clutching a sleeping child tightly in her arms. Her face was pale, her red-rimmed eyes still wet with tears. David slowed his taxi, rolled down the window, and asked gently, "Do you need a ride? It's late, and it's not safe out here." The woman looked up at him, her tearful eyes hesitant. I need to get home, but I don't have enough money to pay." Her voice cracked, as though another word would bring on more tears. David paused, seeing the exhaustion and fear in her eyes. Something stirred in his heart, stronger than his own worries about money. He opened the door and smiled softly. "Get in. I'll take you home." The woman hesitated for a moment, then carefully climbed in, wrapping the child in a thin, worn blanket. The ride was silent, except for her occasional quiet sobs and the steady breathing of the sleeping child. Through the rear-view mirror, David saw her gently stroking the child's hair, her gaze distant. He wondered what had brought her to this point, but knew that some pain needed no explanation, only silent compassion. When they arrived, she whispered, "Thank you. Thank you so much." She fumbled through her bag for a few coins, but David shook his head. "Keep it. Take care of your little one. Good night." Her red-rimmed eyes seemed to brighten slightly, as though a glimmer of hope had been rekindled. She bowed deeply before disappearing into the dimly lit alleyway. David sat in his taxi, watching her figure fade into the shadows. His emotions were a mix of warmth from helping someone and anxiety over his own struggles. Later that night, as he lay in his small, worn bed, the image of the woman and her child lingered in his mind. How hard must life be for them, if even a taxi ride is a burden? He wondered, staring at the cracked ceiling. Suddenly, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was unusual to get a call this late, and he hesitated before answering. "Hello!" David's voice was hoarse with exhaustion. "Is this David, the taxi driver?" A calm but urgent voice on the other end asked. "Yes, that's me. Who is this?" The caller took a deep breath before continuing. "Don't worry, she's safe. But we need to talk. You've done something far more significant than you might realize." The next day, David arrived at the address the caller had provided, a large, elegant house in a quiet neighborhood. He felt out of place, but was greeted warmly by the same voice from the phone call. Inside, he met the woman he had helped, sitting beside an elderly lady with an air of dignity. The older woman stood and approached David, her eyes brimming with emotion. "David, I'm her mother," she said, her voice trembling. "We lost contact with her for years after a tragedy drove her away. Last night, your kindness gave me a chance to reunite with my daughter. For that, I can never thank you enough." David was stunned. He had simply done what he thought was right, never imagining it would mean so much. The elderly woman continued, "We've decided to create a charitable fund to help people in need, and we'd like you to join us. Your empathy and understanding make you the perfect person for this mission." David hesitated, his voice filled with humility. I'm not sure I'm qualified for something like this. The woman smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. You already are, David. Your act of kindness changed a life. Now you can help change many more. Over time, David became an essential part of the charity. He met those in need, listened to their stories, and shared hope, just as he had done unknowingly that night. At a charity event, David addressed a large audience. When I helped her that night, I expected nothing in return. Sometimes all someone needs is a hand offered at the right moment. That small gesture can transform not just their life, but ours too. Kindness doesn't have to be grand. It just has to be genuine. David was no longer just a struggling taxi driver. He became a beacon of hope, a bridge between lost souls and new opportunities. His story is a reminder that kindness, no matter how small, can plant seeds of change, growing into a forest of compassion for all. Even the smallest acts of kindness can profoundly change lives. Always be ready to extend a helping hand, for it not only brightens someone else's world, but also brings meaning to your own journey. What do you think about this story? Leave us a comment and let us know. Don't forget to hit like and follow us for more inspiring and fascinating real-life stories.